Today I'm sharing two of my favorite ever sheet pan dinners. They require pretty minimal effort, but they have such great flavor and texture. They're easy enough to whip up on a weeknight, but also good enough to serve to guests. And along the way, I'll be sharing the formula you can use to make your own delicious sheet pan dinners at home. You can find both of these recipes at NYT Cooking, where I'm a contributor. I'll share later in the video how you can access them for free, but for now, let's get started on our first recipe. We're making crispy curried tofu and roasted carrots with a garam masala yogurt sauce. The carrots get tender and sweet, the tofu turns into these crunchy little nuggets, and the yogurt sauce ties it all together. And as we make the recipe, I'll walk through each element of the sheet pan formula so you can see how it all fits together. So in my formula, every sheet pan dinner starts with the protein, and in this recipe, we're gonna be using extra firm tofu. Baking tofu in the oven can sometimes be a little underwhelming, but I promise the way we're gonna cook it today, it's gonna be super fun. I'm slicing a block of extra firm tofu lengthwise into 4 slabs, and then pressing it under the heaviest and possibly loveliest cookbook I own. Tofu presses faster when it's broken up into smaller pieces, and the drier it is, the less moisture it has, the easier it will be to crisp up in the oven. Now, while that is pressing, we're gonna use that downtime efficiently and work on the next part of our sheet pan formula. Element 2 of the formula is the vegetable, and I typically stick with just one main vegetable, maybe 2, because I really wanna optimize that vegetable's texture and flavor. I don't want 4 or 5 different vegetables that have different cook times, because that typically ends up in a sad, soggy mess. So today, in this recipe, that vegetable is the carrot. When I roast carrots, I prefer to keep the peel on. I find it gives you a more interesting texture and obviously more nutrients. It's also quicker to prep. And the goal here is to slice the carrots crosswise on a bias into roughly 2-inch pieces. If your carrots are thick or the tops are significantly fatter than the bottoms, you want to slice those parts lengthwise in half first and then crosswise. If your carrots are skinny throughout, no need to slice them lengthwise first. In addition to our carrots, we also have a red onion that I'm slicing into 1-inch wedges. I think of alliums, onions, shallots, garlic as complementary vegetables. They get jammy and sweet in the oven, they add a ton of flavor, and the prep work is really quick, so that's super nice. Toss the onions and carrots together with 1.5 tablespoons of olive oil, some salt, and a generous amount of pepper to season. I'm not adding any spices or herbs right now just because I want the natural sweetness of the carrots and onions to shine through. You're gonna transfer these to a rimmed sheet pan and spread them out so everything comes into contact with the surface of the pan. Now back to the tofu. This is kind of the fun part. You're gonna crumble it into small, irregular pieces, roughly the size of a large blueberry. All these little craggy edges you see are going to absorb the spices and oil super well and crisp up beautifully in the oven. Drizzle in some olive oil, salt, and pepper, plus 2 teaspoons of curry powder, since this is, after all, curried tofu, and 2 tablespoons of potato starch. The potato starch is doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. It coats the outside of the tofu and creates this crispy, almost crunchy shell as it roasts. And I feel compelled to tell you this, tofu is delicate. You want to toss gently with a silicone spatula until it's well coated, and it is okay if a few little pieces crumble off. Those are actually going to get really crunchy in the oven, so it's not a bad thing. Spread these out on a second sheet pan, this one lined with parchment paper for easy cleanup, and make sure there's no overlap. And spreading it out is important. You want every piece of protein, every piece of vegetable to be in contact with the surface of the pan. If you overlap things, it's just gonna steam, it's not gonna roast, you're not gonna get that beautiful browning and caramelization and really good texture. So for recipes that serve 3 to 4 people, I use 2 sheet pans, one for the protein and one for the vegetable. But if you are cutting this recipe in half, you can use 1 sheet pan, put your vegetables on one side of the pan and your protein on the other. Both of these are gonna go in the oven at 425 Fahrenheit, tofu on the top rack, carrots on the bottom. After 15 minutes, you'll pull both out, give everything a toss, and then back in the oven for another 15 minutes. One of the things I love about this formula is that every ingredient is designed to be done in the oven at the same time. You only have to flip once, so there's plenty of downtime, there's no rushing, and that gives you enough time to work on the third element, which is the sauce that brings everything together. And for a low-effort weeknight dinner, I want a sauce that comes together in just a bowl, no food processor, no blender, and this yogurt sauce is just the ticket. Start by finely grating a couple cloves of garlic right into your bowl, along with a little knob of fresh ginger. Then you'll stir in about a cup of a creamy, plain flavored coconut yogurt, a teaspoon of garam masala, a few squeezes of lemon juice, plus salt and pepper. The garam masala gives it this warm, aromatic quality that really plays nicely with the slight sweetness of the carrots and the curry powder in the tofu. Be sure to give it a taste and adjust it to your preferences. By the way, if your yogurt isn't rich or creamy, you can add a drizzle of olive oil to round everything out. So good. Oh. And if it's on the sour side, a tiny pinch of sugar will take the edge off. And the final element of the formula is to add something fun. This is that little extra something that takes the dish from good to really good. For a weeknight dinner, it can be something simple. Like today, we're just gonna slice up a serrano pepper. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it does add this really fun, sexy, spicy heat that contrasts with the warmth of the curry powder and the sweetness of the carrots. All right, this is what everything looks like after 30 minutes in the oven. The carrots are nicely browned in spots. The onions are as well. They even have a little charring, which is nice. And the tofu is crisp and golden. Can't resist trying one.
Crunchy.
To assemble everything, you're gonna start with the base of white rice. I had some leftover rice in the fridge from yesterday's dinner, but you also have plenty of time to cook fresh rice when everything is in the oven. Pile on the roasted carrots and onions, the crispy curried tofu, and then spoon the yogurt sauce over everything. Scatter on the sliced green chili as well as some chopped cilantro and a squeeze of lemon juice to brighten everything up. That is the formula in action. Protein, vegetable, sauce, something fun, very minimal effort and fuss. We've got another recipe coming right up using the same formula, but with a very different flavor profile. This one is roasted cauliflower and chickpeas with whipped tahini and sticky torn dates. It's got this Middle Eastern inspired flavor profile. It's earthy, nutty, a little sweet, a little spicy, and it all comes together on a platter that looks way more impressive than the effort involved. So for this recipe, our protein of choice is canned chickpeas. Super easy, convenient option for a weeknight dinner. And all you need to do is drain and rinse them and give them a nice pat dry with a dish towel so they crisp up better in the oven. And then you're gonna add them to a large bowl, drizzle with olive oil, some salt, and freshly cracked black pepper, and then spread them out on a sheet pan without any overlap. We've got our protein out of the way. Now for the vegetable in this recipe, we've got a nice, big, beautiful head of cauliflower. To quickly break down a head of cauliflower without getting annoying little crumbs everywhere, you're gonna turn the head upside down, remove any leaves. From here, run a paring knife around the underside of the core until you can get out this really big, tough piece. We're going for medium-sized florets, but of course, some variation in size is totally fine. As you can see, mine are not perfect at all. You do want to try to slice through the stem so each floret has a flat side, as those will brown better on a sheet pan. I also have 6 fat garlic cloves to complement our cauliflower. You're just going to press down on them with the flat side of a chef's knife to slightly flatten them. Once they come out of the oven, they're going to be soft and golden brown, and they have this lovely savory sweet flavor. You can use the same bowl earlier from the chickpeas to toss the florets and garlic with a few tablespoons of olive oil as well as salt and pepper to season. And make sure you really rub the oil into all the little nooks and crannies in the cauliflower. Transfer everything to a second rimmed sheet pan, and a couple tips here. Try to arrange them flat sides down if you have flat sides, just because those are gonna brown better, as I mentioned. And number 2, the edges of the pan get hottest. So if you have any larger florets, arrange them on the edges and the smaller ones in the middle so they don't burn. Just like in our first recipe, you're gonna pop both these pans in a 425 Fahrenheit oven, chickpeas on the top rack, cauliflower on the bottom, and we'll let them roast undisturbed for 20 minutes. While everything is roasting in the oven, we can make our sauce. It's gonna be a luscious, creamy whipped tahini. And like our first sauce, all you need is a bowl. Start with a half cup of tahini. You want it to be a runny variety like this, or stir it very well before using it. Squeeze in 2 tablespoons of lemon juice and grate 1 clove of garlic. I promise this is the last of the garlic in this recipe. To season, add a teaspoon or 2 of Aleppo pepper. This has pretty mild heat, but a wonderful fruity, smoky flavor. a bit of ground cumin as well as salt, and then roughly 4 tablespoons of ice cold water. The ice water helps the tahini whip up into something that's fluffy and creamy at the same time. Really, really makes a difference. And for this recipe, instead of a pourable sauce consistency, we're going for a thick, spreadable base. Be sure to give it a taste and then adjust it if you want more lemon or more salt. Definitely add it now because this is the base of our whole platter. You want it to be well seasoned. We still have a few minutes before I need to check the oven, so let's move on to our fourth element, the something fun, which in this recipe are medjool dates. The dates are building on the Middle Eastern flavor profile, but they're also going to add delightful pockets of sweetness to contrast with the savory, nutty, lemony flavors. They're also going to get slightly crisp and caramelized in the oven, which is so, so good. Tear them into pieces, nothing too small, remove any pits, and then toss them with just enough olive oil to lightly coat and sprinkle with a pinch of salt. All right, after 20 minutes, you're gonna pull both pans out of the oven, give the pan of chickpeas a shake, toss the cauliflower around, flip the garlic pieces over. My garlic is still only lightly golden, but if yours is a deep golden brown, go ahead and remove the garlic now so it doesn't burn later. Then you're gonna scatter the torn dates across the pan with the cauliflower. Pop everything back in the oven for another 7 to 10 minutes or until the cauliflower is tender and browned in spots. The dates are a bit crisp on the outside, even a little charring is fine, and the chickpeas are crisp and golden. If you like your chickpeas really crunchy, you can give them an extra 5 to 10 minutes in the oven. Assembly time! Take your tahini whip and smear it across the bottom of a shallow bowl or beautiful serving platter. Then pile on the roasted cauliflower, garlic, and dates, scatter the chickpeas everywhere, and finish with a big handful of chopped parsley. A sprinkle of Aleppo pepper is also nice for color. I'm so excited to eat! It's creamy, savory, yet sweet, nutty, and rich, and so, so, so good. So there you have it, 2 weeknight sheet pan dinners using the same formula. You can get both recipes on NYT Cooking. I've left gift links in the description box below so you can access them for free, or you can scan these QR codes. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!